Hello. I haven't made a video in a long time. I had about a 4-month hiatus here. I had a lot going on. My dad died and we had to deal with a bunch of stuff and then some other stuff, and I needed a break because I was getting into this sort of perpetual just trying to do stuff because I thought I had to. And in the interim, I've had this sort of realignment of what I want to do with my channel. Now, I'm not optimum right now. I had to start. So my setup is not great. I'm using the webcam that I have. I didn't move over to my table over over there in the background, and I didn't set up my good camera and try to pretend like I could see where I was. I didn't do anything to make the background nicer, except I pulled down the shade so you could see me a little better, and I got the leopard print blanket over here so my pillows don't look like shit. Um, so if you haven't seen me before, my name is Theresa. I've been running my channel as like a tarot channel basically since 2019, and I've done some what I call energy reports where I'm just sort of riffing on stuff in the occult, like esoteric stuff, like the Akashic records and whatever else I was talking about. So up until a few months ago, I have like 1.5 thousand videos. A lot of those are card of the days, and I did those for over a year where they were like a minute long, so I have a lot of shorts. So I would say probably half of that is those. And then I did a couple series of doll videos, which eventually I'm going to get back to, but I haven't even done anything in like a year. I replaced, let's put it this way, I replaced a couple of My Little Ponies that I had when I was little. I got Windy from 1983, and I got Sticky and Sniffles, which are baby pony twins that I had. I needed for my inner child, um, just to, feel complete inside. But I completed a set of 3.5-inch dolls, 1998 petite holiday princess. So I got Belle, and I was at a point where I didn't want to be on camera all the time, so I opened her off camera and I set the box aside. I'm like, okay, I'm going to come in and I'm going to just sort of like rehash how I took her out of the box and show her with the other ones. And I haven't done that. I haven't shown like the edits I did to some of my other dolls like over a year ago. And I haven't worked on my um, adventures with plastic crack mini notes in a long time. I sort of left it hanging like a third of the way through, well, not like a third, but like I left it like 10 years into the Dolls of the World collection and I didn't finish it. But I like when I go back to doing those videos at some point just for funsies, I think I'm going to be doing them in a different way, especially because the way that I catalog my collection is, or dolls that exist, is different, and I haven't finished that either. Also, leading up to and since my dad died, I spent the last 4 months doing genealogy work. I redid almost all of my files, and then I got locked into this. I found this whole chart online for English relations going back to possible relations of the same last name going back to like 1100, and I've spent a couple months trying to gather that information and organize it and chart it. I'm getting pretty close to being done with that. I'm actually really sick of working on it, but I'm gonna get to that. I need to do like work now. It's taken me a while to feel like I could. I'm having a really off day today. I'm in a crap ton of pain. I've had, meds and stuff to deal with it. And I really wanted to start my new work, which is why I'm recording this. So, what I'm going to do is to sort of ease into my channel where I'm going to be talking about these sort of esoteric concepts. I'm going to basically be explaining things that I've made and what they relate to. And then if I feel like it, I'll be talking about the topics some more. So basically, the way that I've been doing my energy report playlist is mostly what I'm going to be doing from now on. I think I don't know if I'm going to be doing more tarot. I've had tarot readings for sale for a long time. My prices are extremely reasonable, and I'm not really getting clients. So at this point, I don't think I'm just supposed to be spending all my time doing that. I like doing it. It's easy. Um, you know, I it's not hard to jack into the Akashic records for me. But I think in terms of what I do naturally, after this loud vehicle goes by, my natural proclivity is to like research stuff and like understand weird things and then express them in a physical way. So, you know, thinking about energy work, thinking about, quantum physics, and then making a picture. So, with that being said, I'm going to start by going over what I call my Lotus Series. And I kind of thought that I had started my Lotus Series when one of my best friends died, but it looks like, according to the dates on my artwork, that hopefully I'll be sticking up over here. If I can keep my face over here, then I can put the stuff over here. So in 2007, I was trying to be a good automaton. I had moved out to an apartment. I got a job, which actually turned out to be a 3-year permatemp assignment, which was, basically one of the worst things that I experienced, and I didn't really care for that much. 0 out of 10, do not recommend, especially with the autism. That was sort of a defining factor in it kind of going south for me because I haven't had a nervous breakdown. But so this is the context, right? I'm working. I'm too tired to get another job, even though I probably could use the funds. I spend a lot of my time reading and making art when I'm at home because I don't really go out. So I got a new box of crayons. This is like, oh, I haven't had a new box of crayons since I was like a child. So I'm in my early 20s. I get a new box of crayons. I'm playing around with it on some drawing paper I have left from when I was in college because I have an art degree. And I just sort of do like working on these sort of geometric and like sort of psychedelic designs. So you can see this is in May. Yeah, May of 2007. Now there's one from January, which is sort of a precursor to getting the crayons. So I have this piece of mat board that I cut out and peeled the black side off of. And we see here, let me get up over here, it's called Valentine Artist Trading Card, because I had been working on those for like a year. And then I flip it over and I've got some wrapping paper glued to it in the same pattern. So this is sort of, I'm thinking in geometric terms. And I get the crayons, and you can see with Psychedelic Test 1 and 2 and 3 that I'm just sort of exploring different shapes and color palettes. It's something that's sort of coming naturally. And then you see with Brain Tension Weave that it's going more psychedelic, and there's sort of something conceptual trying to come out. And then with Lion is Me here, or Lionisme if you're Francais, but sort of anthropomorphic geometric entity, if you're tripped out maybe, something you'd see. And then this automatic drawing in reference to Lucy in the Skies, you see that, you can see the inspiration, right? I grew up with psychedelic artwork and music, so if I'm going and listening to Magical Mystery Tour or Sergeant Pepper or the Yellow Submarine soundtrack or watching the movie, then I'm getting this sort of wild kind of drug fueled influence. And I've sort of been in this point where I'm like, well, because I'm autistic, I'm not doing recreational drugs. Like, why am I going to take something that makes other people's brain act the way that mine does normally? So, and this comes out of having synesthesia when I was little, because if you look at Brain Tension Weave, this looks a lot like what I would see when I listened to music when I was little. We had some really good headphones, like studio quality headphones that my dad had from a long time before, and we had these large speakers with a sound system. So, with a 16-inch woofer, like, you can feel the sound in your body, and I think that contributes to this seeing sound synesthesia that I had. And I say had because I haven't had an opportunity except for going to a couple concerts where I was like looking at the band the whole time, where I can close my eyes and really be like in the music, and like feel it reverberating in my chest and have the sound bubble move around me. And I think, and then also being exposed to public school and society and sort of having the light beaten out of me, basically, by the neurotypicals, the normies, that it became harder for me to experience that synesthesia, like, after I went to college and became a adult, which, I'm still kind of, I'm almost 42, and I kind of still don't really believe that I qualify as an adult, but, we'll see. Okay. So I'm just going to put up the automatic drawing in reference to Lucy again. But you see with these images that it's like I'm expressing some kind of vibration, right? Because if you say, like 540 hertz creates a certain vibration, and then say, like, this polygon that is this shape has 540 degrees in it, the sum of its angles. And I don't remember if that's actually one of them or not. You could say the vibration is 180 on the oscilloscope. And then the degrees of the triangle are 180 total. So it's like my brain decides that it's connecting that frequency not just to the sound that I'm hearing, but also to the shape, and then the sort of cacophony of colors comes in, and the way that I'm experiencing something that's sort of normal for me is uh, like a big map of shapes and colors. Um, and so then when I see psychedelic stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, that's the same stuff. You know, oh, a kaleidoscope. This looks like the same stuff that I've been looking at for years. A lava lamp. Oh, yes. I'm doing that too. So this is the beginning of my Lotus series, and none of these are sort of Lotus yet, except when I finally get in there, you see that I make iLotus. And if you've seen my work before, you'll know that I have a digitally remastered version of this. And when I had Cafe Press, I had it on my merch there. Um, and I've tried it in a couple other sites, and all of those sites are down now except for my website, and I still have a few things chunking around on Etsy. Um, so I should have prints with iLotus on it, the digitally remastered version. But so I drew this color, the crayon color version, and that was sort of um, the end to the leading up to the Lotus series, my pre-Lotus works, and the very first actual Lotus, because the shape that I got, this sort of lotus petal shape, is like it's sort of like Doritos 3D, if you're old enough to remember them. It's like a triangle, but all the sides are puffy. They're all convex. Yeah, because concave is good. So they're all convex, so it's like a puff, but it's a triangle. And that shape comes out of the flower of life pattern. So when you're starting it, you do 6 circles that are all overlapped with each other across their centers. And one of the shapes that comes out is this triangular lotus shape. So that's what those shapes actually are. I'm going to end this pretty soon, but I do want to go into kind of the first few of the early Lotus works here. So that was it for a moment, for like a month. And the next month after I did those initial works, one of my best friends growing up died sort of suddenly, and I wanted to like I can't remember if I was trying to leave something as a memoriam for her child, or if I was giving it to her family, like in general, like her parents. But as with the Valentine artist trading card, I took a piece of black mat board and cut this peace symbol in it. Or did I cut it? I think it was mat board, but I can't remember. I either drew it or it was mat board, but I had a peace symbol with a black field outlined in black with sort of a couple rings of the lotus petals all the way around it. And I never got an image of the original, which is why I don't remember whether it was matte board or whether it was entirely crayon. But I colored it in with crayon in this sort of like I think it was sort of a rainbow lotus petal ring around it, kind of like how the eye lotus had a bunch of colors. So I gave that away before I could have a picture of it, because this was before smartphones came out, so I didn't have a camera at the time. Um, but at some point, you can see this digital recreation is sort of what it looked like. So I'm experimenting with this geometry a little bit more. And with this other one, you can see that I did another kind of version of it here in this little twit draw that they had way back when. So you can see where it's going. And I don't know if I read a textbook on sacred geometry like during this time, or if I only read that before I went 3D with it. But somewhere in the fall of 2007, I read 2 sacred geometry books and I took copious notes. And then you see with the second piece, I have Lotus Peacock. This one I did not get a very good picture of before I gave it away. So I've sort of had to edit what I have here, and it's not a really good quality photo. But it's enough to see what's there. So I have the peacock with the sort of green and gold in the tail, the blue body, and this purple background, and all the lotus petals in this one are in pink and red tones. So I'm having a specific lotus palette color here, and you'll see in some of these that it's quite frequent that I use pink colored petals, but not all the time. It's sort of the standard. This one was carved in peeled mat board specifically. So I peel off get the design in there, cut it with the X-Acto knife, and then use the knife to peel up the top layer so it's this sort of nubbly white inside, and that's what's been colored with the crayons. And it's not supposed to be anything specific, but it's basically just experimenting with the concept of the lotus petals, different shapes of image, instead of a rectangle like the 9x12 with the paper and stuff, now we've got a square. And again, just sort of experimenting with the placement and radiation of the petals. With peace triangles, I've got a pentagon here, but I also have a couple of triangles intersecting. Like it's trying to be a star, but it's not quite there. So in some ways you could say it's sort of like holographic in that it's like in the middle of changing. But it's just sort of basically an experiment in a few different triangular shapes, but with the idea that I'm adding that peace sign element to it. And then this one with the radiating multicolored petals. So this one doesn't have a specific concept outside of a star and triangles and rainbow. But as I get further into the series, they become more conceptual. So the next piece in this Lotus series is more experimentation. So I have this piece, Papyrus Celtic. It's a long rectangle. Oh, I forgot to... Peace triangles. Let's put that back up for a second. This is acrylic paint on canvas board. Okay, so I'm using different mediums here, or a different medium at this point. So Papyrus Celtic, this is a long skinny rectangle instead of a fatter one, obviously. Now, this is based on a sousaphone, which is basically like 2 Tesla coils near each other. and people can use it as a musical instrument because of the way the electricity zaps from one to the other. But I've added this element in that these pillars, the towers, the coils, are based on papyrus columns in Egyptian architecture, but the electricity running between them is taken on the shape of a Celtic knot. So I have a pink electric line, a blue electric line, and then green and purple in the towers, and then there's sort of like a brown and yellow toned lotus arrangement that's quartered. It's not round, it's not in a star, it's just like a cross shape. And for some reason, with these blue and no, with these brown and yellow toned lotus petals, I had a blue glitter crayon that I used to like outline the petals. And this wasn't like a really deep concept, just basically what I explained. So it's just experimentation, and this is why it's in the early Lotus phase of these works. And this all has to do with like consciousness and like mind expansion and understanding sacred geometry. Like in some ways you can say that I'm sort of connecting these ideas in my head, but the way that I'm processing the idea of how sacred geometry relates to me is I'm moving physically and creating something externally in order to arrange the information in my head. But I'm also at the same time putting it in something that other people can see. So, like, my process of learning and storing information has a byproduct that's useful. It's like how people eat Vegemite, which I'm pretty sure is a byproduct of something else. Okay. So, Papyrus Celtic and this round one here called X Lotus, I did kind of at the same time. In my head, they're a pair. Not like PEAR, but they are two things that are a set. Even though I've previously listed them as sold separately. So X Lotus is a piece of mat board that I've cut round. I think it's like 9 inches circle. It's like a small paper plate / small paper plate size. And the idea of the X is in the middle is the feminine white triangle coming down and the masculine black triangle coming up. And instead of converging all the way into this, what we call the Star of David, it's halted like point to point instead of like middle to middle. So at the tips of these triangles, we have a little green diamond or square, and green is the color of life. I know that with Osiris and everything, it's also the color of death, but if you think of, what am I trying to say? If you think of springtime and the unfurling of growth, it starts with green. I'm sure there's other reasons why, but basically the color of life. So we have masculine and feminine, and for some reason I put this sort of bloody brick red color behind them. And then for this one, all the petals are sort of dusty fall brown colors. And the color is weird for me. It's not like my best version, but when I think about it now, in contrast to the green being the color of life, having the lotus petals be sort of dead leaf fall colors makes a lot of sense. And then if you think of, it can have that sort of womb look to it. like everything dead is going into this blood color and the Genesis is coming out green. So in that way it ends up being more deep than what I was originally doing, which was, you know, experimenting with a couple of basic ideas. Okay. So the last thing I'm going to talk about with this video, before I get to the intense pieces, is Capricorn Crescent. This is a tiny little piece of mat board. It's roughly the size of an artist trading card, but it ends up being smaller because it's this fat crescent shape. It's kind of dumpling and or pierogi shaped. So what I've got here, it says Capricorn Crescent. So I've got the star with the little green diamond on top, representing the pineal gland, and since the star inverted represents the goat, I've added this mermaid tail on here to represent Capricorn. Now this is based on the idea of, I want to say Lawrence Gardner, but I'm not sure. That Capricorn and Venus are related, because if you invert Capricorn, then you have Venus, the upright star, and the green diamond ends up in the womb space where the life is coming out of. And then I've got this cluster on the other side with a pink lotus petal bunch. They're not arranged like in a sort of perfect array. They're a little akimbo, but it makes it look a little bit more natural, because natural petals tend to have a little variance. So basically it was just a little like star and Capricorn reference. And it's cute and little, and I've been putting it on the cover of one of my chapbooks. It was the first one that I did. So that's what's going on with me, and the first introduction to psychedelic sacred geometric expansion for me. So when I talk about these, the idea is that me telling you what I was thinking about becomes the lesson. And, you know, it's something that people who consume an artwork don't necessarily get to hear what the intention was, unless you have somebody who drew and wrote their own tarot deck, and you actually are somebody like me who will read the guidebook before you even touch the cards. It's like, I want to know what you information or ideas you assign to this piece, so that when I see it, I understand better what I can get out of it. You know, it's not just like, oh, what does this mean to me based on my life experience, because I didn't make the artwork. So I have to, it's sort of like I have to feel its face to know what it looks like. Hopefully that makes sense. Ideally, it would be nice if people would consume my artwork while I'm still alive. Where was I going with that? Yes, telling you what was going into these artworks. It's one of those a picture's worth 1,000 words thing, but it also has to do with like encoding information. I think that's where I was going with that. You know how like hieroglyphics are an image, so it can have multiple layers of meaning. You know, or it's like the way the feet are means something, and the number of whatever means something. it's a simplified way of rendering something that's more than three-dimensional. That's like not entirely material. So in that way, creating something abstract can like encode ideas of not being happening in the meat space. Hopefully that makes sense. So if you have any questions or comments, let me know. Obviously, I have to sort of apologize for the quality of the video because I just have to work with what I've got at the moment. You know, and like any channel, you know, more abundance makes for better equipment. So, you know, a video camera that is decent quality and like a microphone and me being able to see myself on the screen at the same time, those are things that will happen eventually. You know, we all have to start somewhere, and I choose to start on a really bad pain day because showing up is better than not showing up, and I felt like I have to keep putting everything off because I have to do task, or then I have to recover from doing task. And, you know, with as somebody who's like ADHD and has several like injury and chronic pain issues, doing something and breaking through that impossible task barrier, in even if it's in like, you know, low resolution, it's better than having nothing and feeling frustrated. It's like having blue balls for creativity. Yes. Okay. So I will hopefully end up with this video with the audio and the video in synchronicity still. I don't want to say the old intro that I had. I'm all like, everything's new. So, and I'm not even gonna put up the exit reel. My website is CATtheMinion.com, and that is also my link tree. And you'll find links to my website and social media, except I haven't put Blue Sky on there yet. That's also CATtheMinion. And any, you know, donations you want to make. I do have my tarot readings that I do listed on my website for sale, and the merch that I've finished so far is on there. I have a few items left on Etsy. I'm not going to renew anything until I decide if I'm moving my real items to Shopify or not, which is what my website is under. Hang on. I have a bunch of artwork that's available. I have a butt ton of cat plushies, and you know, if you want any of that, just email me, message me, something. Take it easy, and we'll see you later. Stay groovy. Bye.